All right, so this is our Elements and Principles of Art slides. We're going to be talking about the elements and principles of art, and I like to talk about the elements and principles as recipes and ingredients. So our elements are those recipes. So if we're thinking about making brownies, those would be the brownie mix, the eggs, oil, water. Those are all of our ingredients. Those are our elements. And then our principles are the rules or the recipe that we use to mix all of those things together to create art. So elements are ingredients and principles are the rules or recipes. So let's start first with our elements of art. So these are line, shape, form, texture, space, value, and color. Line is a continuous mark made on a surface by a moving point. There are lots of different kinds of lines, but a line is special because it is not just a little dot on a paper or on any surface, but it has length, it has width, it has direction. If you've taken a math class, you have probably plotted lines, and then you know that when you plot two lines, you can graph or plot 2 points, you can graph a line in between them. So our different characteristics of line that we have are the width, length, direction, and quality. So with the width, is it thick? Is it thin? Does it taper? Which means that it goes from thick to thin. Is it long, short, continuous, or is it a broken line, like the lines that go down the middle of the road? And then also direction. Is it horizontal, vertical? Does it go diagonal, or does it curve? And then quality. How can we describe that line? Is it clean, messy, sharp, blurry, or smooth? So these are all just different adjectives that we can use for lines. Now we have a special kind of line, which is called an implied line, and this is not an actual line, but elements that are next to each other that our eye interprets as a continuous line. So here we have all of these spheres lined up on the sidewalk, and our eye interprets this as kind of a curving line. Other implied lines that we have are if we point at something, like if you point, you are creating a line from the end of your fingertip to that thing that you are pointing at. That can also create an implied line. Next we have shape. So shape is an enclosed two-dimensional space defined by lines or other elements of art. So we're used to shapes being outlined by lines like this one here, but shapes can also just be defined by a color. Like this is a orange triangle, or this is a circle just made from textures. So the important thing to remember about shape is that it is two-dimensional. It has height and it has width. We have two different kinds of shapes. So we have geometric shapes, and those are the regular structured shapes that we think about when we think about geometry. So squares and circles and triangles, rectangles. These are the ones that we can find the area of. The perimeter, we can measure their angles, think geometry. Then we have organic shapes, and these are the things that we find in nature, like leaves and flowers and clouds. Organic shapes. Next we have form. So form is 3D, so it has height, width, and depth. So shape was 2D, form is 3D because it has that extra dimension on it. And with form we have two different types of form. We have real and we have implied. So real forms are those actual sculptures that you can physically touch, like this ballerina here. We can walk around all four sides of her. She has height, she has width, and she has depth. Implied forms would be like these hands that look like they are three-dimensional, but they are drawn on a flat piece of paper. So it's the implication of form. Then we have texture, and this is the quality or feel of an object. So what does it look like it would feel like? Here we have this kind of rough, almost hatched texture in this field and in the sky, so it's rough. It's not necessarily smooth. Just like with form, we have two different types of texture. So we have real and implied. So with this sculpture, we could actually touch this saucer and it's covered in fur, so it would feel soft. And this print here of Kath Kolowitz, she depicted herself with these deep grooves and wrinkles on her forehead, and she's creating this implied texture of those wrinkles. But if we were to touch this piece of paper, it would feel completely flat and smooth. Then we have space, and space is just about distance. So the distance around, above, within, or between things. So we could describe these ice cream cones as having very even and regular space because there's the same amount of space between them, above them, around them, and below them. We can also talk about space with landscape paintings. The foreground is in the front. How much space is between the foreground, the middle ground, which is in the middle, and then the background, which is the stuff in the back? Is there a wide sense of depth? Like this feels like this could be like a quarter of a mile deep, but this has very flat space because we really only see the ice cream cones. We have two types of space, positive space and negative space. So positive space is the main focus of the composition, the subject matter, what you see. So we see this plane, a crash, and some words. That's the positive space. The negative space is everything else around it, the background. And then value. Value is the lightness or the darkness of a tone. We have different values here in this artwork. We have really bright white values. We have light grays, medium grays, dark grays, and blacks. And when we talk about the different kinds of values that we have, we call that a range of value from dark to light. So we go from really dark to those dark grays, medium grays, light grays, to those bright whites. This is a range of value. Color. Color is made up of three different properties: hue, intensity, and value. This artwork here uses our primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, which we use to mix all of our other colors. But back to properties of color. So hue is the actual pigment of color. So this is just the name of it. So what is it called? Is it purple, lilac, periwinkle, violet? They all look different. So those are different hues of colors. And then just like with black and white, we can also have value with color. So do we have a light blue? Do we have a medium blue, like right here? Or do we have a dark blue? Intensity is the purity of a color. So when you think really intense colors, think of like those colors that come straight out of a crayon box. Like our very bright red, that intense red that we have right here, compared to this dull red that we have here, right? This is almost more of a brown. So here we have an intense red, here we have a dull red. And then our warm colors are red, orange, and yellow, and our cool colors are blue, green, and violet.